In this final segment, we're just going to hit on a number of just isolated statements under some general categories that I'll give. It's just a way to think about sport and how to use it, whether you're a player or a coach, again, a parent talking to his kids. Any one of these things could stand alone as a principle. They're either biblical principles or they're not unbiblical, meaning they're just truth. It's like gravity. Gravity isn't a spiritual concept, but it is a truth. It's a principle. If you don't respect it and you jump off a building, it's not going to go well for you. It's not a matter of being a Bible verse. It's just a truth. And these things are principles and they're truths that have to do with things that can be applied in the sport context. Let's hit some of them here. About relationships. There was a football coach named Lou Holtz that said, where there's caring and sharing, no problem is insurmountable. It's a great, simple statement, but there's great truth in it too. If you consider others better than yourself, that's a Bible verse, the chances are your relationship's going to be enhanced, whether it's with another individual or with a team. If you're always thinking about somebody else and how to bless versus how to get your way, chances are there'll be better, healthy relationships. These are things that you teach. So even within the sport context, if I was talking to my football team or my tennis team or my soccer club or whatever right now, I could be talking about that. Here's why we need to care about each other. Here's why we need to share. Share stuff, share our heart, share our feelings. All these things can be part of the fabric. When we look at sport, we usually just look at practice and game. And we don't naturally think of it in terms of humans. They're actually humans that have actual lives, that have actual concerns and fears and issues and stuff. And we're just looking at them as if they're machines and mechanisms. But they're not. They're human beings, whether they're adults and professionals or little children. And these principles have to do with creating a culture and a climate where the kingdom can be advanced and life can be enhanced. I guess that's a way to say it. Another one, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's a line that gets thrown around a lot, but there's great truth in that. If I think you care about me, I'm more prone to be willing to sacrifice and serve you. Now, all things being equal, it'd be good for me to serve and sacrifice and bless even my enemy. That would be a Bible verse. But in terms of human interactions, chances increase somebody's going to follow you if they feel like they matter to you. Right? I remember I worked for a boss one time. My line about him is I believe he cares about me more than I care about me. Now, whether that's true or not, he made me feel that way. And thus I was motivated to be loyal to him because he served me in such a way that I was convinced that he wanted my best. And he wanted to take care of me. Can you imagine that with coaches and players? I know coaches I played for that I wanted badly to please them for the right reasons. Sometimes I wanted to please them for the wrong reasons. I didn't want to get in trouble. And other times I played for guys that I knew really didn't care about me at all. And that impacted the way I went about the process. I'm not saying that's a good thing because I should have applied myself regardless. But the fact is we tend to be motivated by people that we believe are caring about us and serving us and dying for us. If we don't cherish, nurture, and protect caring relationships, our teams will not reach their potential. It's just the bottom line. It'd be nice in a hypothetical world for people to be automatons and maximally give regardless of how you treat them. But we're humans. And we respond to love and being cared for. Even at the professional level, you see that all the time where guys are unhappy with their team because they don't feel they're respected by the organization. Or I'm thinking about a situation in football this last month where a guy found out he was on the trading block. And he felt like then they didn't care for me and they didn't tell me about that. But they're humans. I remember a friend I knew, a pro football player that I was part of a team when he was in college. And he was the highest paid player in his position in the whole NFL. And yet he still felt like I wasn't respected. For some reason, money didn't translate into respect. He wanted to be respected. But then when they're respected, they want more money. You'll never be satisfied. If your target is wrong, if your goal is wrong, you're never going to be satisfied. Because money and stuff and bling is never going to be enough. You're going to always want and need more. He who loves money never has enough. That's what the Bible says. He who loves riches is never satisfied with himself. And that's the truth. Happens to be a Bible verse. Player-to-player relationships. Players must do more than simply respect each other. They must care about each other together more than they care about themselves individually. Doesn't mean you can't win if everybody's selfish. It just means odds are decreased. You're going to maximize your potential individually as a team if you don't care about the people you play with and for. Just human, we're humans. It's just the way it is. Power of words. We have to watch our words. Words are the simplest means by which to build up and destroy people. Words. The tongue is the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit, both the blessing and the curses. That's a Bible verse. Everything we say is either an investment in or a withdrawal from the bank account of our players. Even psychologists say for every time you criticize, you got to have 10 compliments. I mean, even the world knows these things. The scriptures were the ones that led the way in this stuff, the truth. But the world even understands this stuff. Attitude. Promote attitudes, not rules. Nobody likes being in a rule-dominated climate. We're looking at hearts. We're not looking at change behavior. We'd like to have behavior change, but if it's just about behavior modification, it's not going to last. It's not sustainable. Because the moment you're not there with the whip, they're not going to do what you're asking them to do. So we create cultures of want to instead of have to. Frosty was notorious in our situation, talking about some practical expression. He wanted people to choose to do the right thing. He was willing to allow them to do the wrong thing in order to give them a chance to do the right thing. Because if he made them do the right thing, then they would never learn or develop the want to do the right thing. They would do it because they had to, not because they wanted to, which means it wasn't sustainable. And he had a genius knack of giving players the option to choose poorly or choose well. Even to my angst as a guy who coached with him, I'd feel sometimes like he allowed people more freedom than was wise for the greater good. But he was committed to the power of choice. And he was committed to creating a climate where kids could disagree with him to a certain degree, far more than I felt comfortable. I felt like he needed to modify their behavior more, and he didn't. Can't argue with his success because his impact was freakish, both in terms of eternal impact, but also practical play and productivity. He created a culture. Did he get abused sometimes because he allowed for people to freely express themselves? Yes. Did he get taken advantage of? Yes. But did he create a climate where she had supercharged, transformed lives? Yes. And there's something to be said for that. We're looking for changed hearts, not blind obedience. Another point similar to that, the inside person is more critical than the outside person because the inside, the heart, the attitude can dramatically affect the outside circumstances. But the outside, if changed, may have no impact on the inside. There will be no lasting impact if it's just behavior modification. So are we coaching to get a modified behavior? Or are we coaching so that somebody internally and intrinsically chooses right? Those are hard thoughts. It's like, relax, we just want to play. I just need them to do what I ask them to do. Well, you can have that culture and that climate, but it's not sustainable life change. Then all you're going to get is a better team and a worse person. And I would consider it problematic if we win a championship and I got a bunch of divorces in my players when I track them over a decade or two. That to me would be a loss. That would be a bad deal to me. If we won during our nice little year and we all got a little ring and a little trophy and somebody didn't learn how to love his wife or his husband or their kids, that would be not a win. Certainly wouldn't have the internal fruit that you'd like to have that you could teach people through sport. Sport is played in a physical realm, but it's much, much more mental, emotional, and social than physical. And that's why we must guard intentionally our players' hearts and souls, their mind, their emotion, their will. For the heart and soul of your team shuts down long before the body does. All right? We talk about that. Play with great heart. What does that mean? Play with a strong will. Play with mental toughness, things like that. These are all things that that impact the body. The game is played in the physical realm, but it's the internal that drives the physical and makes it work or makes it shut down. We need to think about that. Have conversations about that. Philosophically consider that. Here's some thoughts about coaching on the grass, which is just our way of saying when you're actually coaching the actual players. Or parenting. We can parents into this. Parents have tremendous impact on their kids by the conversations in the car after the practice or after the game. That shapes the player, male or female. It shapes the player to tell them what really is valued by their parent or by their significant other. Every practice moment is an opportunity for life education. Take advantage of it. That's all we're saying. Another point. In the practice setting, emphasize learning by doing over learning by listening. When I consult sport teams, one of the biggest problems I find, in particular with younger, and when I say younger, I'm talking about youth, even through high school, is the kids are standing around all the time, and the lines are long. And so in a 10 or 15-minute sequence, that individual, if the line has 10 in it, he may get 2 reps in 10 minutes. Well, you're not going to improve with 2 reps in 10 minutes. Rather have more lines with more activity than less lines with longer lines. Less lines and longer lines. Now the guy's going to say, I can't watch 5 people do that thing. Well, you're better off with more people learning by doing and teaching your players how to coach each other than you are having to be the only set of eyes on a drill. Because you're not going to get the quantity of reps that translates into changed play. There's obviously a tipping point where you can have so much going on that you don't see anything. That's why you have to empower your players. We're not talking about 6-year-olds now, but we are talking about high school kids. They're smart enough to know what it looks like when it's done well, and they can learn about accountability that way also. That's a practical comment there. Be on your guard against stand-around instructional time. The game is played. It's not talked about. Coaching enthusiasm is critical. This is a big deal. Energy begets energy. It's the difference between hands in the pocket coaches and coaching on the run, where you're moving around and you're engaging and you're giving feedback. Frosty would say feedback, verbal feedback, is the breakfast of champions. It's a tremendous truth. Feedback, because I don't know if what I did right there is going to be successful or not. So if it's unsuccessful and I'm not giving feedback, I'm going to reproduce that skill unsuccessfully, which is going to translate into an unsuccessful outcome in a game because I didn't get feedback about what it's supposed to look like or feel like. That's hard. It's hard to coach this way. It's very costly, energy-wise, to be verbal continuously, to move around in drills, to engage your players. Here's one other little piece in this. Critical distinction. There are 2 ways to verbalize the same instruction. One builds, the other destroys. I can either say, catch that ball. I can say, come on, babe, you can do it. You can do it. Get another shot at it, right? Both cases, the guy didn't outcome positively. One, the guy's going to fear getting in trouble again, and the other feels like, I just got to keep at it. I got to keep at it. It's just the power of words and how you say stuff. And this is a big deal. These are just practical things. It's parents. It's not just coaching. Coaching is parenting. Coaching is teaching. Teaching is parenting. Parenting is teaching. It's maybe a different field. You got your blood family and then you got a team or you got a classroom, but it's all the same way. The same principles apply. Here's some final quick thoughts. Whatever sport you're playing, teach them to respect the game. We say this about football. The game's been played for over 100 years. Every year people every year a few people die playing this game across the country. And people get impaired physically. It's a hard game. It's a costly game. It sometimes can damage the body in small percentages, but it happens. Treat the game with respect. It's not about you. It's about the game. So if you're a Jesus person, it's about God. If you're not a Jesus person, it's about us. It's about team. It's about sharing. It's about caring. It's about sacrifice. It's about education. And sport is the vehicle of the education. Respect the game. The game was here long before you were born. If the world lasts, it'll be here long after you're gone. It's not about you. Another one, last thing, is the power of eyes. Instruction is greatly enhanced when eyes are on the instructor. Make every player look at you when you're speaking at them. When you're talking to your team, make sure they're all in your visible line. If you can't see their face, they can't see yours. So I want to see everybody's eyes. So get yourself in a position where there's 5 of you or 12 of you or 100 of you. Do not coach in a circle where they're going to hear the back of your head and not be able to engage with what you said. You can't see them. Their eyes aren't on you. we know from just practical reasons, if somebody is not looking at you, he loses 40% of the instruction just because he doesn't see you. I made that number up. I know it's a big number. And the bottom line is the people in the front pay attention more than the people in the back, and the people who can see and hear have better transferability of that information than those who can't see and hear. So think about that and coach each other up on what that looks like. That's practical stuff. That's not a Jesus deal. You're not going to go to hell if you talk in a circle. But practically, this gives you the better chance for impact. Because if you are talking about a life principle or something of value, let alone eternity, and you have people behind you, they're not going to engage at as deep a level, and you're going to waste those seeds because they aren't going to germinate if somebody can't hear, can't engage because he's not connected because he can't see you. Every player needs to look at you when you speak, and you need to look at them too. Here's the bottom line. People are dying, whether they're 6-year-olds or 60, people are dying for somebody to show them how to do it, how to do life, how to be a man of God, how to be a woman of God. They might not even know it, but they're dying for somebody to give them a picture of what a real Jesus committed follower looks like, so they have a chance to choose whether they want to be that or not. So give them a chance.